everybody longing to expand, or can I be content with just living well? If you say that unconsciously anyway I'm trying, then maybe I'm willing to try and fire up consciously.
It is not because I say so, there is no option for any life. Every life wants to be little more. Some take big strides, some take small steps, depending on the level of fear and insecurity they have. But even the most fearful person wants a small expansion, isn't it? Yes or no? So there is no option because life wants to find its ultimate nature. This longing to expand is not something spiritual, this is the nature of life. It is the nature of life, the fundamental life within you, which is being referred to as spiritual, a highly contaminated word today. But what we are referring to as spiritual is a deeper dimension of who you are, and that is longing to expand. It's not by your choice or my teaching which does this.
No, but I think what she is referring to, and I quite agree with her in that, sometimes there is a pressure to expand. The fact that is spiritual growth a pressure? If it's a pressure, then why should it be there?
Whether there is pressure or no pressure, everybody is trying to be little more than who they are. They're going at their own pace. Installments, you're trying to reach the infinite through small installments. It's a hopeless method. Now, if somebody sees you doing something which anyway not going to be fulfilled, is it not his business, if he knows better, to tell you if this method you employ, you're never going to get there? If you… by small installments, if you expand this big, you're not going to die fulfilled, you will still die unfulfilled. There is something called as Bhairavi Yatana. Have you heard of this word? In the last… this is called a ghati, this is an Indian time unit. There is a nimisha, a kshana and a ghati. A ghati approximately compares to today's 24 minutes, the way we are using today's unit. In the last ghati of your life, all the undissolved process within you, the whole process of life, everything runs fast forward in everybody's experience. When this begins to happen, one who is conscious will enjoy this phenomenally, and you will see when people are dying, suddenly they become peaceful and quiet because now they realize the whole thing is like a cinema. You were seeing it in proper motion, so you thought it's real. Now they're running the reel fast, and you know this whole thing is rubbish that you got deceived by. But some will get terrified because they have not done even the basic preparation about this. They've been taking minute steps, never even taking a little bigger step, 2 small steps. Such people will go through a terrifying process because life is whizzing past them. So this is called as Bhairavi Yatana. How you do this last ghati in your life determines many things. There is really no choice about this. This is not a psychological thing, this is the nature of life. When I say nature of life, the air in the bubble is held with a certain tension of the bubble surface. It is always trying to break free. If you blow a bubble, you don't have to go and prick it. It holds for some time and then bursts by itself because the inside tension is such that it cannot remain there. So this is the same with this. The life within you is a limitless process. The physicality is always a limited boundary, so it slowly builds up tension. See, if nothing happens in your life, you must be happy, isn't it? But that's not the case. Nothing happens is the greatest torture, isn't it? You want something to happen, at least trouble, at least marriage. Something must happen. It doesn't matter what, something must happen. Nothing happening, unbearable, isn't it? Because the longing is to expand. Now the expansion, if you look at it, it doesn't matter how much expansion you find, it's not going to come to a conclusion. It is looking for infinite expansion. You're seeking infinite expansion through physical means. Physical cannot expand infinitely because physical is always limited. You are trying to drive your car to the moon. and you will come back either frustrated or with wrong conclusions or dead.
Mic for him, please. Yeah.
Sadhguru, namaskar. I just wanted to know what is the importance of quick shraddha?
We almost touched that, but we left this. When a person dies, whichever way he dies, any of you… in India it is not a reality, but if you have seen death close up, someone close to you died and you're supposed to sit and watch, nobody leaves a dead body alone, you have to… someone has to be there. If you have sat there, if you keep the body for over 2 days, 3 days, you will see the hair will grow. Only if a person is shaving, you will notice it because the facial hair can be noticed. Nails will grow. You will see in other countries where they preserve bodies for a long time, the undertakers clip the nails, shave them and all this because a dead person is growing his hair and his nails. Why this is so is, in the manifestation of life, the physical life, there is… let me separate this, there is life and physical life for the sake of understanding. The physical life has manifested itself. The physical life energy, which generally is referred to as pran or prana, has 5 basic manifestations. There are 10, but that will complicate. The 5 basic manifestations. These are called samana, prana, udhana, apana and vyana. When a person is declared, let's say if a doctor is observing and they declare that person at a particular moment that he is dead now, in the next 21 to 24 minutes, samana will start exiting. That means samana is in charge of maintaining temperature in the body. First thing that starts happening is body starts cooling down. The traditional way of checking whether somebody is dead or alive is, they'll feel the nose. If the nose has gone cold, that's how they concluded that he's dead. They wouldn't check the eyeballs and other things, they would just check the nose. If nose has become cold, that means he's dead. So samana exits at that time. Somewhere between 48 to 64 minutes, prana exits. After that, between 6 to 12 hours, udhana exits. Till udhana exits, there are tantric processes with which you could revive the body. But once udhana exits, there is a micro chance, but that is an impractical chance, except that it is impossible to revive the body once udhana has exited. The next thing is apana, somewhere between 8 to 18 hours, this exits. The vyana, which is the preservative nature of prana, will start exiting from beyond that. It can continue to exit up to 11 to 14 days if it's a normal death. That is, somebody died of old age, with the feebleness of life they exited. For such a person, between 11 to 14 days, certain processes will be happening in the body to show that there is some element of life, like nails growing, hair, facial hair, these kind of things can be noticed. If someone has died accidentally, or in other words, the life was vibrant and he died, not necessarily totally crushed kind of body, still the body is intact, that body, the reverberations of this life will continue somewhere between 48 to 90 days. So, till that time, there are things you can do for that life. What is the thing that you can do for that life? See, what has happened with death is, your experience of death is that somebody is gone. But the experience of that person is, he's exited the body. And simply because he's exited the body, you have no business with him, you cannot recognize him, and if he comes back, you will be terrified. The people that you love, if they pop up, there'll be terror, not love. Because your relationship is either with their body or with their conscious mind and emotion. These things have been left behind. The body has been left behind and the conscious intellect and the discerning mind has been left behind. Now, in terms of mind, it is just a bunch of information which has certain tendencies of its own. Natural tendencies which are finding expression in a certain way, there is no discerning mind. Once there is no discerning mind, if you drop if you put one drop of pleasantness into this mind which has no discerning capability, no intellect, now this pleasantness will multiply 1,000,000-fold. If you put a drop of unpleasantness, that unpleasantness will multiply 1,000,000-fold. It's like your child who doesn't have the necessary discernment, he goes out to play. He doesn't know when to come back. Till he's exhausted and he can't do any more, till then he wants to play because he doesn't have the necessary discernment, okay, it's time to go. Similarly, this is an extreme state where it is much more than a child, where completely the discerning mind is absent. So now whatever quality you put into it, it will multiply 1,000,000-fold. This is what is being referred to as hell and heaven. If you go into a pleasant state of existence, this is called as heaven. If you go to an unpleasant state of existence, this is called as hell. These are not geographical locations. These are experiential realities that a life which has become disembodied is going through. So what people are trying to do, how well it is done or how ridiculously it is done today is a different matter, but there is a whole science what to do at different steps. One of the first things you must notice is, traditionally, I don't know if you're still keeping it in Mumbai, maybe it's all gone, but if somebody dies, there will be people, the first thing they will do is they'll tie the big toes of the dead body together. Do you still do it or gone? Yes, it's very important, because tying up the big toes will tighten up the Mooladhara in a certain way, so the body cannot be invaded or attempts to invade the body by that life once again, because that life has not lived with the awareness, knowing that this is not me. It is always believed this is me. Though it has come out, it tries to enter through any orifice that is there in the body, particularly through the Mooladhara, because that's where life generates. And as body starts cooling down, the only region where warmth will remain till the last point of warmth is always the Mooladhara. So it tries to get back. To avoid this, the first thing is tie the toes, so that attempt will not happen, because this exiting is happening stage by stage. The reason why traditionally always we said, if someone dies within an hour and a half or maximum of 4 hours, you must burn the body, because this act is going on. Now, this is also true for the living. If someone very dear to you is dead, you know he's dead, but your mind starts playing tricks. Maybe he's going to sit up just now, maybe a miracle will happen, maybe God will come and do something fantastic right now. It has never happened to anybody, but still mind plays this because of the emotions that we have for that particular person. And that is the same thing is true with the life that is exited from the body. This also believes that still it can get back into the body. If you want to stop the drama, first thing is set fire to the body. 1.5 hours. But those days, because, villages and no doctors to tell you for sure he is dead, somebody put on the funeral pyre and set fire, the guy sits up because he's not yet. These things have happened in the past. So they stretched it to 4 hours so that these mistakes don't happen. But as quickly as possible, body should be taken away. If there are agriculture communities, they decided to bury because they want the forefathers and their body to go back to the soil from which they ate. You must understand, we were in a subsistence farming. We ate from that land. That land, a piece of that land is what we are holding as this body. So they wanted to put this soil back into the same soil, not somewhere else. Always you bury him in your land, never in somebody else's land, because you ate from this land. Today you're buying everything from the store and eating, you don't know where it's coming from. So, burial is not a good thing to do now. At that time there's a certain process, and to see that it happens as quickly as possible, always salt and turmeric was put so that quickly it dissipates into the soil. But cremation is a good thing to do because it closes the chapter. You will see this when there's death in the family, people are crying and hollering and doing all kinds of things. The moment cremation happens, people will come back home, everything is quiet. Nobody is crying for some time because suddenly the truth has sank in, it's over, the game is up. This is not only for you, this is also for the disembodied being who's just exited, because he is also in that illusion that he can get back. and that stops, and that's a good thing. And there are many rituals to see that you influence, that you can somehow put a drop of sweetness into that non-discerning mind, so that the sweetness will multiply manyfold and they will live comfortably, or they will live in a certain self-induced heaven. That's the idea behind the rituals, if it is done properly. Today it's become a… They're asking you, the dead need footwear, an umbrella. Someone who's left the body here does not need footwear for sure, isn't it? The man who's doing the ritual needs the footwear. I don't know why they cannot say, I need the footwear. At least you would buy them the right size. There is a… I'm sure all of you have heard of this word called runanubandha. Have you heard this? Runanubandha means physical relationship. Wherever you touched anything, it can be because of parentage, it can be because of sexual relationships, it can be just because you held somebody's hand, or it is because you changed each other's clothes. In many ways, two bodies will generate what is called as runanubandha. That means there is a certain commonality which begins to happen. So when somebody dies, traditionally you're looking at in how many ways you can completely obliterate this and spread it around. The idea of putting the ashes in Ganga or in the ocean is simply so that it doesn't stay in one place and create runanubandha for you. It must be dispersed as widely as possible so that you don't develop runanubandha with one who is departed. You must break the relationship for you to continue your life. If this runanubandha is not properly broken, as it is happening in modern societies, it will definitely affect your physiological structure, your psychological structure. Particularly, children up to 8 years of age are immune to these things. They will not be affected by this, nature has given them that protection. Adolescents will be most affected by these things. When we do not take care of the dead properly, adolescent children in that society will suffer immensely, because these energies are always there, and the first that they go towards, the easiest and the most vulnerable life is the adolescent life. And today the world is showing you this, how much upheaval people are going through just to face adolescence. I'm sure many of you who are of our generation, your adolescence was never a struggle. Today, it's such a big struggle. One reason, it's not the entire reason, one reason is we are not taking care of those who are departed properly. And these runanubandhas are loose all over the place. It is just like loose software everywhere, and it affects. And the one life that gets affected most is always the adolescent life.
But what do you do? How do you make the powder of your emotions and sprinkle it? Those emotions are going to be with you. You can't cut those ties. You can't grind your emotions. They go with you. And you ask people who lose their dear ones and ask them such a cut and dry, mechanical way of sprinkling your ashes and you should be cut off. I don't think it's possible.
See, emotion is another aspect. Emotion is a secondary aspect to your life. Because that person was physically present here, because of variety of relationships that you hold, and above all, a physical sameness in so many ways, either because of blood relationship or because of sexual relationships. A physical sameness that's happened is what we are referring to as runanubandha. You want to eliminate that because this can cause sickness, this can cause psychological derangement, another aspect. Emotion by itself is not damaging. You had a beautiful relationship with somebody, and today if that person is no more, the healthy way, if these things are eliminated, what will happen is, you will cherish the beauty of that relationship rather than suffering it. But if the runanubandha is there, it weakens your body and your psychological structure in such a way, instead of cherishing all the beautiful things that happen between two people, you are suffering, not only suffering, it will lead to certain derangement of life. To avoid that, we are only trying to destroy the physical memory. The emotional and psychological memory, you should not forget. Not only that you cannot forget, why should you forget? Someone who meant so much to you, why should you forget them? You must cherish that relationship forever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pranam Guruji. I have a question about something that you've written in one of your books about the Kurma Nadi. It says that if you trace your breath, you could come to the point at which you are tied to your body. And after thinking about it, I was wondering that the breath is going into the lungs. So, can you just elaborate a bit on this?
The air is going into the lung. What we are calling is breath. There's no appropriate word in English, so we're calling it breath. In Sanskrit, you would call it pran. Pran is not going into the lungs. Prana is not going into the lungs. Only the air is going into the lungs. Air is a certain physical quantity that you're taking in for the physical survival of your physical self. But the pran is what we were talking in terms of life. The whole cosmos is life. Now this bubble, which is formed in the form of a body, this has to communicate with the larger life that it is. Because life is not just happening here, it's happening all over. It is just that right now we are able to experience it within the limitations of this little physicality that we have created. This is in transaction. If you observe that transaction, then that is observing the breath. For lack of English vocabulary, we're calling it breath. I know in English it means intake of oxygen and throwing out carbon dioxide. It's not being said in that context.
I definitely feel, I think it's what I've captured in few words. I think life is definitely, it's great to be born. The fact that if you look at scientifically, there are so many DNA permutations and combinations which have not taken birth, which has not found life. So I feel life is to be celebrated and life is special. कितने विचार थे तो जन्मे नहीं, कितने स्वप्न थे जिन्हें नींद नहीं मिली, कितने पैर थे जिन्हें गति नहीं मिली, कितने आश्चर्य थे जिन्हें नजरें नहीं मिली, कितनी उंगलियां थीं जो थरथराहट को तरसती रहीं, कितने उत्तर थे जो सवालों का इंतजार करते रहे, कितनी खिड़कियां थीं जिन्हें नहीं मिली झांक, कितने आंसू थे जो गालों पर लुढ़के नहीं, कितनी सांसें, कितनी धड़कनें चुपचाप बैठी रहीं। तुम्हें एहसास भी है कि तुम्हारा जिंदा होना एक महाचमत्कार है, साबुत करिश्मा। कभी निहाल होते हो ये सोचकर कि तुम बैठे हो संस्कृति के इस विशाल स्टेडियम में, जहां नृत्य कर रही हैं हवाएं, जहां बरस रहा है सृजन, जहां गूंज रहा है सृष्टि का उत्सव। धन्यवाद की ऋतु है ये, अनुग्रह का मौसम। बढ़ो और गले लगाओ कस के।
What's the last word mean? What are the last word? I didn't understand.
We embrace life.
Okay.
Tight.
To say something on this.
Please, sir.
Why, in pursuit of something that's within you, why is it somebody goes to the jungle? Why is it somebody goes to the mountain? Why is it somebody goes in search of sages and saints and temples and just about anything that anybody tells them? Is simply because the bond of physical nature is woven strong. If it is not woven strong, you will not survive. It's a strong entity by itself, body. And when you're in its bond, it has its pleasures, it has its beauty, it has its many things, many aspects to it. It looks like it's a world by itself, it's an end by itself, which it is not. So when you want to transcend this, every little support you want to receive from everywhere becomes necessary. I should tell you a little joke about this. Once it happened, Shankaran Pillai had a gala fight with his wife. When you get into a fight that you cannot win, you only quit. And you can't quit and stay in front of that person. It's too humiliating. So he just walked out of his house as if it's the end of everything. Then not knowing where to go, he just wandered around just outside the town. Then he saw, it was evening, sun was about to set, a sadhu was settling down under the tree for the night. He thought, okay. And he went to him, fell at his feet and said, Sadhu Maharaj, बीवी बहुत परेशान दे रहा है, कुछ सुलभ उपाय है तो बोलो ना। The sadhu glared at him, बेवकूफ, सुलभ उपाय है तो मैं क्यों साधु बन के यहाँ बैठ रहा हूँ? Because transcending the mortal coil takes a certain amount of striving.
Yes.
That striving may take a person to many places to start with, but once it's well established, he need not go anywhere because once he understands, it's all internal. The striving is entirely internal, then he knows there is no need to go anywhere. It's only in the initial phases people run all over the places. After some time, they know it's completely internalized. It's wonderful all of you being here. Above all, I would like to particularly acknowledge Prasoon for his fabulous poetry, which says so many things that you couldn't say in words normally. And it's been wonderful that without him, probably so many things I would never speak in one sitting. Asking the right questions and making that happen. Thank you.